Hello and welcome to P Guru's channel. I'm your host Sri Iyer. Geopolitical equations post Article 370. Where do things stand? What is happening in the world? Now, to give you a little bit of perspective, let's go back to 1947 or even before that. There were lots of kingdoms in India. The British were basically having their own land and then they were keeping all these people as their subjects. Now, one little kingdom that was subjugated by the British, but was one of the first to give support to the freedom struggle, was the Kingdom of Nalapat. And we are talking to Professor M.D. Nalapat, who comes from that kingdom. In effect, if today there was no Privy Purse, he would be settled for life and he wouldn't be running around the way he is, and he should be in very comfortable lifestyle. But be that as it may, the Kingdom of Nalapat was conquered by the British, and then when the freedom struggle started, they were one of the first ones to support the idea of freedom for India, and they gave their support wholeheartedly. When the instrument of accession came, they were one of the earliest signatories on that one. Contrast this with what happened in Kashmir. You know where I'm going with this. Sir Cyril Ratcliffe, who had never visited India before, was tasked with the job of demarcating the borders on both the eastern and western side of India, in effect chopping its limbs. Now, what happened after that was that the Kingdom of Kashmir went into standstill mode. You know all the stories there. The reason I'm saying all this is because when this line partitioning happened, then a lot of Hindus escaped from what had become West Pakistan into India. Now, as the luck of draw would have it, if they came into Jammu and Kashmir and laid down their roots thinking, we are in India now, we are going to be fine, they were sadly mistaken. It took 72 years and the guts of Amit Shah and Modi combination for them to do away with this Article 370, which finally restores all rights to the people who are living in Jammu and Kashmir. Now, this should have been an emancipatory view. This should have been seen by the world for what it was truly, it was a liberating thing. But what we are seeing now is something else. To talk about this, let's invite Professor M.D. Nalapat. Professor Nalapat, welcome to P Guru's channel.
Well, thank you, Sri. And the territory that I came from in Kerala was conquered by the British many decades before freedom. But fortunately, Travancore and Cochin were not. I think the problems that the British encountered with the Malabar kings were so severe that they decided to give Travancore a long rope. So Travancore had its own army, it had its own navy, it had its own coins, stamps, etc. And it had, I mean, almost, if I may say so, much more independence than practically any other princely state. So I think the treatment of Travancore was because of the fact that it was so difficult for the British to subdue the small little kingdoms in Malabar.
So, coming to the present, sir, 45 members of Parliament of United Kingdom, 43 of them are Labour and 2 from a Scottish party. They all signed this memorandum on the House of Commons letterhead, and they sent it off to UN saying that India's occupation or abrogation of abolishing of 370 needs to be looked at by the United Nations. Fortunately, saner heads prevailed in UN and they refused to entertain the petition of Pakistan. However, you can see the reverberations of this go through many countries. One of the Democratic congressmen, in fact, had written some comments critical of this same thing, and he got a huge backlash from the Indian Americans. And I think that was the only attempt that someone tried to toe the line of what Pakistan probably was feeding them. And luckily, after that, nothing has happened in the United States. But we never know what's going to happen. They are going to have these demonstrations on the Independence Day of India in practically every consulate that I can think of. They've been telling us that they are going to do this thing, not just in the United States, but also in UK. Nalapatji, what does Pakistan hope to achieve by this?
You know, Sri, Pakistan is a part of the Wahhabi International. And today, for the first time, and I would like to say that I would like to thank Donald Trump on this, he has taken a very firm stand against Wahhabism, unlike several people in his party, such as Senator Lindsey Graham, who are frankly, very, if I may say so, very, very submissive to the Wahhabi lobby. Pakistan is a weapon of the Wahhabi lobby, and it has been so for quite some time. So what you're seeing in the United Kingdom, what you're seeing in the United States, you have these tens of billions of dollars, of pounds, of euros, of Wahhabi cash that is pouring in. And frankly, money speaks anywhere in the world. So when you see all these people rush like a band of, if I may say so, like a band of donkeys to sign these memoranda, well, you can't blame them, because you have this entire immense Wahhabi trough that they are feeding off. So, I wouldn't blame them, poor chaps, They must be hard pressed for money. They must be hard pressed for invitations and so many other things. So if you do this and you please the Wahhabis, essentially, let me again tell you, this is not for Pakistan. This is for the Wahhabi lobby. And the Wahhabi lobby, frankly, Pakistan is one of the instruments of the Wahhabi lobby. Now, why is 370 important? 370 is important because the fundamental tenet of Wahhabism is that if you are Wahhabi, they call themselves Muslims, but frankly, I would like to say that, fortunately, the overwhelming majority of Muslims reject Wahhabism completely. The Wahhabis say they are a race apart. They have come from Mars or Jupiter or some remote part of the solar system, and they are a super race. And therefore, they cannot live with all these inferior races. Especially, for example, Hindus. What could be more inferior than Hindus? You look at Pakistani textbooks. Pakistani textbooks will tell you exactly what the Hindus are. And they make Hindu students in class read out some of those passages. That's how advanced and civilized and, frankly, moderate Pakistan and Pakistan education is. But what I want to say, frankly, is that 370 is essentially, what does it say? It says Muslims cannot live peaceably with Hindus. That is what 370 says. That you cannot allow Hindus any say in a place where Muslims are a majority. Now, I want to tell you, we have about 4.5 million Muslims in Kashmir. A large number of them are moderate, fortunately. Many of them are Shia, who are certainly not in favor of the Wahhabis at all. They are deadly enemies of Wahhabism, frankly. I'm sorry to say that many Sunnis don't like Wahhabis, but they're too terrified of them to say anything openly. What about the 174 million other Muslims in other parts of India? What about them? What is the example that the small section of Wahhabis is basically telling the people of India? Oh, they claim to be Muslim. Oh, we can't live in peace with Hindus. For heaven's sake, Shri, tens of thousands of communities are there across India where Hindus and Muslims are living together. And by the grace of God Almighty, they are living in peace and harmony together. The Wahhabis want this message to spread, that Hindus and Muslims cannot live in peace together. And till today, I'm sorry to say, successive prime ministers have tolerated this Wahhabi theory and this Wahhabi outpost in Kashmir, which was the fire of which was kept burning by Article 370. It is a complete monstrosity, and it's a monstrosity anywhere in the world. You're talking about the United Kingdom. You have places in Bradford that are majority Muslim. I'd like to ask those people who signed that memorandum, are you telling me that in Bradford, Christians should not enter Bradford? Are you telling me that in Bradford, white people should not be allowed into Bradford? Are you telling me that in parts of Detroit, which are Muslim majority, people who are Christian, who are Jewish, should not be allowed to settle there? Are you telling me that if you have a church in those locations, that church should be destroyed? That is what they are supporting. And their constituents need to be told by the Indian American and the Indian UK community, this is what they are supporting. They are supporting enclaves, ghettos, in which nobody else is welcome. And they're tolerating, unfortunately, in some of these places, enclaves and ghettos where you don't have the mix of cultures, the mix of people that is a mark of civilized life. So these people are frankly, I would call them the useful idiots of the Wahhabi International. And I don't think we should take these idiots, they're not useful to us. They're not useful to humanity. They're not useful to the civilized world. But they're very useful to the Wahhabis. And all I would like to say, good luck. I hope you get your reward. I hope you get your 30 pieces of silver.
Now, I've read somewhere that there are portions in United Kingdom that are actually following the Sharia law. Is it true?
Well, look, first of all, I'd like to say that what you call Sharia law, Wahhabi Sharia law, has nothing to do with the Quran. I have read the Quran multiple times, and I can assure you it's a wonderful book, very frankly. And these Wahhabis, unfortunately, have basically usurped the humanity of the teachings and have tried to impose a completely false narrative. And yes, some parts are following this kind of narrative. And again, I repeat to you, Sri, what is the core point? The core point is you should not live in peace with anybody around you. Now, if that kind of an ideology spreads across the world, where is the question of harmony? Where is the question of social stability? In Germany, in France, in the US, in the UK, if that kind of ideology spreads, if you have the 370 mentality, that don't come here, you're not welcome, you're not one of us, where would this spread? Every one of the legislators in the United States, United Kingdom, European Parliament, who have supported Pakistan on 370, they should be exposed for what they are. They are exposed as people who frankly are saying in certain areas where Wahhabis are very powerful, those areas, Christians, Jewish people, moderate Muslims should not be allowed to enter. And this is the message that they are giving by this kind of signature.
So I think part of all these declarations are perhaps coming out of ignorance, and they probably don't know about...
It's also coming out of greed. Let me tell you, I have never seen a better funded lobby than the Wahhabi. If you look at the Sunday Guardian 2 or 3 weeks, some weeks ago, I wrote about it. I talked about Lindsey Graham. I talked about people like Tom Barak, and who are all part of the Wahhabi lobby. And unfortunately, there are people in places like Qatar, unfortunately, even in Kuwait, in Saudi Arabia, even today, and in all these places that are giving tons of money to all these people, and that they're feeding off the Wahhabi trough. And they don't understand. They are actually destroying their own civilization. I want to ask the British people and the American people who have signed this, are you in favor of Muslims in America and Britain having 4 wives? Are you in favor of that? Are you in favor of Muslims divorcing their wives by simply saying talaq, talaq, talaq? Are you in favor of that? What you are signing in favor of that. So announce to your constituents, yes, we are in favor of Muslims divorcing their women by saying talaq, talaq, talaq. Yes, we are in favor of all these other Wahhabi practices. That is what the constituents of these people need to be exposed. And I hope people in these countries, whether Hindus, Christians, Jews, or moderate Sunnis, or the Shia, will join hands to expose these people, these useful idiots of the Wahhabi International who have signed this kind of ridiculous, ridiculous memoranda against what Prime Minister Modi has done, which is wipe out the two-nation theory from the state in India, which till today has been practicing the two-nation theory through the Article 370.
Those are very strong words, and it's a powerful message, and let's hope that the lawmakers watch this video and pay heed, and we will do our best to disseminate this. Also,
spread the message in every constituency. This message to be spread. Who are these people backing? They are backing these fanatics. And this is what 370 is. 370 is a badge of discrimination. 370 is a badge of religious intolerance, of religious supremacy, and religious supremacy is as bad as racial supremacy.
Thank you so much, Professor Nalapat. We'll be back with more such interesting conversations.